All right. So for my communications class, I have to talk to you about a persuasive subject. I'm going to talk to you about something that might not seem like a persuasive subject, but most people don't like to talk about it. It's something that we all go through at some point, but people like to push it to the back of their mind. Let's talk about death, baby. Let's talk about you and me, and eventually everyone we know. So we as a society have a hard time talking about death. We have a hard time addressing it. 100 years ago it was a little bit different. People were a little bit more infatuated. If you can look at Victorian mourning art, it's all over the place. But people died at the average age of 40, 100 years ago. Today we live into our 80s, our 90s, potentially our 100s. It's so far off and so far removed from us that we don't like to think it will ever happen. But it will. Because we put off talking about it, we end up in situations where this will happen to us, it will happen to our loved ones. We don't know what they want. They might be incapacitated, they might be in a coma, they might have had a stroke and have limited mobility and speech issues. We don't know what their wishes are. People die tragically. We don't know what to do. We don't know if they'd want their remains cremated and spread somewhere. We don't know if they'd want a burial. An average casket can cost between $2,000 to $10,000. When you take into account of getting a plot, embalming, all that stuff, that is a big financial stress on someone. And I don't know about you, but I don't necessarily want my family going bankrupt to put me in a fancy coffin that I'll never see. I'd much rather have that coffin while I'm alive. So another big part of this is that we don't necessarily know what each other would want in the event that we are mentally incapacitated. Most advanced directives, only 22% of people participate in their own advanced directives. 76% of people are either mentally impaired or incapacitated, and most of them are written 2 to 3 days before someone dies. Nationwide, only 30% people have advanced directives. There's a town in La Crosse, Wisconsin, where 96% of people have advanced directives. A doctor there realized that we do not talk about death enough. We do not talk to each other. We do not talk with our families about it. And that's how he started approaching it. He started approaching all of his patients with palliative care. He's like, hey, what realistically do you want? We give people options of, we can either fight it or we can make you comfortable. Either we can do everything or we can give up. And he found that when we talk to people like, hey, what do you want? It's like, yeah, I'd like to do what I can, but ultimately I don't want to spend the rest of my life like in a hospital. I'd much rather die at home with my family. And I think that's much healthier for people, Do you want your last memory, do you want your daughter's last memories of you to be, able to play with her, out having fun, or that you're just sick in a bed, Even if that gives you 6 more months, 9 more months. We will another problem that we have is we'll have family members who have a hard time coming to terms with their family members never getting better. We, as healthcare providers, have all seen it. Someone will be a full code. Family want compressions done, electricity done, drugs done, and they will be not the person they were. They won't talk. They barely open their eyes. They just sit in a bed and moan. But family members have a hard time coming to terms with that. Sometimes they feel bad that they would want that person to be a darn, that they wouldn't want everything done. That's their mother, that's their father, that's what you're supposed to want. But people need to sit down and talk about the quality of life versus quantity of life. The aspect, the negative aspect of talking about death is it's uncomfortable. The negative aspect about not talking about it is that we end up in these things where we might be in a state that we wouldn't want to be alive, but we're still alive. We might end up costing our family fortunes in, like, nursing homes and, funerals that are too lavish that we don't want. I talk with my girlfriend about death a lot. Maybe we're morbid, but I know what she would want. She knows what I would want. My mom likes to talk about death. I know that she unironically wants, "If you don't know me by now, you will never know me," by Harold Melvin the Blue Notes played at her funeral. Doesn't see the humor in it. My dad doesn't like to talk about death. I really have no idea what he wants. So unfortunately, I'm just going to have to go with what I would want. Since I think about death a lot, I feel like that puts him at a little bit more of an advantage, but in the end, whatever his wishes aren't really going to be fulfilled. They're going to be what I would want. So that's why I persuade you to talk to your family members about death. Do it often. What you'd want in your 30s is probably not what you'd want in your 70s. If I were to drop dead right now, yeah, please do everything, I'm certain, I'm still young. When I'm 70, yeah. So yes, talk to your family members about death. It's important. It'll happen to every one of us. No getting around it. Thank you.